There's always a lot of climbing on a Gran Fondo, so it's really important to get your pace right on the climbs. We've ridden dozens of Gran Fondos over the years, and we always see the same mistake. Lots of people start the first climb much too fast, swept along by the excitement and the adrenaline, hoping for a miracle. As the US-based triathlon coach Alan Couzens has said, your race pace is derived from evidence, not hope. If you pace yourself correctly, you'll catch these people later and finish a long time before them. Let me show you how. Getting your pace right on the climbs means starting from the evidence and analysing your recent performance. This gives you the baseline power or heart rate numbers to aim for. You can then slightly adjust this up or down depending upon other factors such as your recent training, the quality of your taper, stress levels, sleep quality, motivation and general feel on the day. Let's see how this works in practice with a personal example. The Etape du Tour 2018 was 169 kilometers and 3,800 meters of climbing. It started with 25 kilometers completely flat around Lake Annecy, followed by a couple of short climbs and a false flat rise to the start of the first significant climb at kilometer 43. I talked about how fast you should start in my previous video, and of course my goal here was to arrive at kilometer 43 with the best possible group. To analyse how hard to make the climbs, I looked first at my power distribution curve for the previous 6 months. This showed that my critical power and 60-minute FTP were both about 275 watts. I knew that none of the major climbs would take me more than an hour, but I also knew that if I rode the first at 100% of my 60-minute FTP, I wouldn't be able to repeat it over the other 3. So the question becomes, what percentage would be sustainable? The evidence for this was in previous events. I rode Liège-Bastogne-Liège in April. This is a much longer event at 275 kilometers with a bunch of short climbs, so it's not directly comparable. I expected to take 10 or 11 hours, so I rode it at a lower pace, averaging 77% of my 60-minute FTP on the climbs. So this provides a floor value. I could do at least this much. I then rode the 3 Cols Sportive 2 months before the Etape. The distance was 137 kilometers and total climbing 2,800 meters, but in spite of the name, this was spread out over 10 different relatively short climbs. My average power over these was 88%, including an effort at 89% for 20 minutes after 3.5 hours. This event was shorter and easier than the Etape, so since I know I made a max effort, it provides a ceiling value. I rode 2 other events, the Time Megève and the Gran Beau, respectively 5 weeks and 2 weeks before the Etape. I rode both of these with clients I was coaching, so neither represented a maximum effort for me. They therefore provide more evidence for a floor value. Looking at all these together, I took the view that 80% was a bit low and 88% was a bit high, since the Etape was substantially tougher than the 3 Cols. Also, I'd be running a training camp during the week preceding the Etape, so would not be able to taper properly. Nevertheless, I was highly motivated, so I decided to target 85% on all 4 major climbs, adjusting this slightly depending on how I felt on the day. So how did it go? Well, although I say it myself, my strategy was pretty successful. One of the features of the Etape is that after the event they give you your ranking on each of the climbs, which allows us to see how effective my pacing was compared to the others. The yellow line is the power data. It's easy to see where the 4 major climbs were. On the first climb I was the 2,576th rider with an average power very slightly above target at 86%. The second climb was much steeper, so my average power was higher at 91%. I was the 1,728th rider on this segment. On the third climb I improved my place to 673rd, again at 86%, and on the final climb I improved my place further still to 467th, in spite of my power dropping below target at 82%. This drop was probably caused by a combination of 2 factors. First, I made a lot of above-threshold efforts between the second and third climbs, and I may have pushed slightly too hard on the third. Secondly, I probably slightly under-fueled in the last couple of hours, so there was still room for improvement. The clear conclusion from this is that at least 2,100 riders went too fast on the first climb, and overall they lost more time than they gained. The fact is you get your best time by keeping a constant pace across all the major climbs, ideally keeping a little in reserve for the final climb. Now, let me show you a big mistake I made on the Marmotte in 2019. Following similar reasoning to what I showed you for the Etape, I targeted 79% on each of the climbs, reducing this to 71% on the Galibier due to the altitude. All went well until I started up Alpe d'Huez for the final climb. Here I decided to increase the pace and try to target 85%. This was a fatal error on those initial steep ramps, and after 15 minutes I had nothing left and was feeling sick from the effort. I had to slow right down before actually stopping. I then had to stop again for another 5 minutes a little higher up. Overall, I lost at least 15 minutes on this final climb compared to taking it steadily at 75 to 80%. Again, inadequate fueling probably contributed, but the main error was definitely attacking the steep ramps at the foot of Alpe d'Huez too hard. The conclusion is, your pace is derived from evidence, not hope. Analyze your current condition, be realistic, make a plan, and then stick to it. Thank you for listening. My name is Marvin Four, cycling coach and founder of Gran Fondo coaching specialist Alpine Cols. Come join one of our coaching camps to learn more about riding Gran Fondos.